All right, welcome everybody. My name is Ian Benoliel. I'm the president of Number Cruncher, and we're the makers of Order Time. Today we're going to do a public webinar on designing or adding custom and calculated fields to your system. And so, without further ado, let's go. So we're taping this webinar. We'll also post it on our website. If you have any questions, use the chat button. So you should see like a chat button on top of your screen there. Just use that, and then towards the end of the presentation, I'll take a Q&A on this topic. All right. So first things, we go to the admin section, which is the top right corner, usually your company name. You click that. Then you'll see the settings. If you're the admin, you'll be able to go into company preference, custom fields. All right, and then we have a list of custom fields or a list of tables or types. So if I click on contact, we can see that we have 5 custom fields and none of them were used. If I clicked on items, we have 100 custom fields and only 2 are used. Okay, so I'll just click on contacts, and to add a custom field is pretty easy. So once you're on the type that you want, you just go add custom field. The caption is what the user will see. So let's say it's birth date. Okay, and birth date, you can make it required. So that means that they have to put in a birth date every time they create or edit a customer or a contact. And then you can select the type. Now the type for birth date is a date, so I'm going to pick date. And that's all it takes to create a custom field. So now we're using one custom field. So I'm just going to go to one of the customers over here. All right, so here's my customer. I'll click on contacts, and if I go to custom, I'll see the birth date right here. So I'll just kind of put in my birthday here. Okay, and the rest of the information. All right, so we have that custom field. Now, let's say I wanted to show that custom field on this list over here, or any list for that matter. So now that I have my custom field, I'll have it as an available column. So I just have to find that and just add it right there. All right, so now I have a new field called birth date that I can report on and maybe make put it on the calendar to wish them a happy birthday. It just so it happens to be my birthday. So if you want to send me a card on November 19th, I'll be more than happy to accept that. All right. Okay, so that's kind of the most simplest way of creating the custom fields. Let's get a little bit more elaborate. So let's say I want to create a number of different custom fields. So in this scenario, let's say in my items, they might come 12 in a pack, and I want to put that in. Now, you'll notice here that the type that I put in is a quantity. Okay, well, that's a regular custom field. Now this one is a calculated field, which is a little bit different. And this one basically says, take the weight of the item and multiply it by 1.05 to get a gross weight. Now how did I do this? So I'm going to start from the beginning. So the first thing is that I press that it's a calculated field. Now, depending on the type, it'll come up with different types, and we'll go through each one of these. So if it's a text, I can concatenate and I can do an if. If it's a quantity, which this is, I can do mathematical and also if statements as well. So in the gross weight, I want to multiply a property, which is the weight property. So I basically click on property, and if I click on property, I'll see all the numeric types. So the one I want is weight. Okay, so I just kind of pick the weight and I say okay. And I want to multiply that by 1.5. So I drag over the multiply sign. Okay. And then I want to enter just a regular 1.05. It's not a property, it's not a data field, it's just a value. So I just click on the text over here and I put in 1.05. All right, so now I can eval to make sure that it passes. For example, if I put in a bogus calculation over here, whatever, it won't eval. Okay, so let's delete that eval. Now save does the eval as well as, so this is a totally legitimate, obviously, calculation. All right. So now let's go to one of our items and enter some information about that item that does the calculation. So I'm going to go ahead, edit the item, and I'm going to put in a weight of, let's say, 5.5. Okay. You'll see that this is disabled because it's calculated. So I'm just going to enter this weight, okay, and press save. And if I look at that, I don't see that. Well, it's because I've designed this and I have to add it. But if I go to my item list, I will see it. So let's go ahead and put the gross weight on here. Okay. So we see that worked. It just multiplied that. All right, now you'll notice that it's not on the display. And the reason it's not on the display is because I previously customized my item detail view. So I want to add that to the display. So I can go to my page layouts, and I'm looking for entities in the details, and I'm going to find my item display right here. So it's not, if I look at my custom, it's not there. Now maybe I want to put this in the gross weight in a prominent position. So all I have to do is find the gross weight. Okay, there it is. And I can drag it in here under custom, but I can really put it anywhere. So I can put it, let's say, right underneath the price. And save that. And so now I'm going to go back to that details page, and I can see that I have my gross weight. So what I've demonstrated here then is that in the custom fields, I can create a calculation based on any other property. Right? So I will kind of elaborate a lot more on this as we go. Now, one of the things about the custom fields is that it can move, it can transfer from the item to, let's say, a sales order or a shipping doc that uses it. In order to do that, I simply have to make the same custom field name or caption, and they'll copy it over. So let's go back to this item over here, and I've created a custom field called pack size. So I'm gonna say that, you know, there are 12 in each pack. Okay. All right, and you'll notice here that pack size also is a custom field on the sales order line item. So there it is. Sales order line item has the custom field exactly with the same caption. And if I have an item and a sales order item with the same custom field, they'll copy. Now, if you want to find out which ones copy, go to our helps, which is help at ordertime.com, and here you're going to see, if you scroll down, the item gets copied to all these other types. Okay, so that's why I created the same caption with sales order line item. All right, so let's say now I have a sales order. So I'll go ahead and create a new sales order. And we'll just pick one of our companies here. Custom field. So that's custom field that's required. As you can see, it made me enter that. And then I'm going to enter the item. Now I'll add that custom field to show you that it had in fact copied over. Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is, let's say they order 24 units, 24 eaches. What I'd like to do is when we create our shipping document, I'd like to show on the shipping document how many packs they're going to be. Well, that's basically taking the quantity and dividing it by the pack size. Okay. So let's go ahead to our custom fields, and notice also on the sales order I also have a pack size, but let's just make sure that's a quantity. All right. Now I'm going to do another calculated field. Notice the name of the calculated field called is SD Cus1. Okay. So I'm gonna go packs, which is going to be the number of packs, and I'm going to make it calculated. I'm going to make it a quantity, and basically I'm going to do some division here. So I'm going to take the quantity, which is right here, so that's the property, and I'm going to divide it by another property, which is the pack size. Okay, so notice that's SD Cus1 in the database. Eval that, it passes. Beautiful. Oop, well, that's not good. All right. That's the idea. Why that happened, I'm not quite sure, but that's the idea. All right. So then, obviously, when you create the ship doc, it'll calculate that, and that will do that. So let's go through a couple of more scenarios in terms of the custom fields. Let's add another. So let's work on the items and kind of show you how that the other types work. So let's start with is heavy. Is heavy. And now I'm going to show you a calculated field that's a yes no. Okay. So yes no has basically one type of thing that you can do. So here's kind of a logical what's called a logical if. All right. So I want to say if the weight of an item is kind of more than a certain amount. So let's say it's greater than 2, then we're going to put in. Sorry, let's make this to a text. So if the weight find the weight here again. It's greater than 2, greater than 1, then put in a value of n. All right, and else the value is yes or y. Okay, so that's passed. All right, so now let's look at our item over here. Let's look at the item list and let's add that other category. So we can see that this one is yes, yes, yes. This one is no. So if I do this weight to, let's say, 0.5, it should change the value. Okay. So that's kind of one way. That's another way to create a calculated field. Now I can use this calculated field in another calculation. All right, so that's one type of thing. So let's go with a string custom field, and you'll notice that there's an if and there's also what's called a concat. A concat is basically taking two things and putting them together. So let's say I wanted to put, for whatever reason, the ID, all right, together, and I wanted to put in just a dash and then another property, whatever, sub-level. Okay. So that's a custom field that concatenates the ID, the letter 1, the word 1. I can also put in symbols like a dash. All right, so that's another type of custom field called a concatenation. Now a lot of times there's a lot of also date custom fields where you need to do some date calculations. So let's say I wanted to find out the length of time in days between when this item was created. So days created, and again it's a calculated field. Now days created is an ID. Okay, and with an ID is any integer value. So you're going to use ID for any integer value, and the difference between two dates is always going to be an integer value. So if I wanted to, let's say, find the number of dates, the date created and now, I can also do, let's say, between other dates as well, modified dates, if that, but now means like today. All right. Okay, so again, going back to my items list, and we'll add that column. So it shows the number of days from the dates created. So imagine if you had, for example, a lot number and you wanted to know how many days to to the date of expiration, this would be a great way of doing that as well. Okay. Another situation arises when you need to add a number to a date. So, so again, that's going to be a calculated custom field, and we'll say item birth date, all right? Or no, item item date or something like that. It's going to get calculated. This time I'm going to do a date, and when I have dates, I can always do an if. And when I do an if, it's going to resolve. So whatever value I have here has to resolve to a date. Okay, that's why I picked the date. But in this case, I'm going to do a date add. And let's say I wanted to add, you know, 2 months to the created date. Right? So I can pick any number of that. Now, what I can also do is, let's say I wanted to add the days created. So I can add either a property value or I can add a number. In this case, I'm going to add a number. Okay. Eval works. Perfect. So we're going to go back to the items list here. And we're going to find out if that worked okay. So that just adds a number of days to the date created. Okay. Now, like all custom fields, I can now report on them. I could use them on the list to sort, to use them as columns and stuff like that, and obviously add them to all my details pages. So I'm going to do that again just to show you. So I want to do entities because I'm looking for an item, not a transaction. If I do transactions, then these are all the transactions. I want entities. The layout, you can see I have detail or editor here. But let's just filter that. And now we'll add, you know, the other custom fields that we've created. That one to the custom. Okay. All right. So now going back to that item, I'll see, you know, clearly all the custom fields. Okay. So that's kind of, you know, the presentation. I can assume that there'll be quite a few questions here. Michael, do you want to start off with the questions?
Yeah, one of the questions that Allison had asked was whether information like from a custom field that's attached to the item table goes across to the PO and receiver also. And when we were looking at the knowledge base article, anything added to the item table for a custom field also goes over to the sales order line item, work order component, the purchase order line item, receiver item line item, and the ship doc line item. Right. So yes, it does copy over.
It does copy over, but more importantly, if for example on the inventory status report here, I wanted to now, you know, I have the table items, and that table items now has, you know, all the custom fields that I've created. So here's is heavy, here's that one, right? So they're all there now, right? And they're just fields now that I can add through the joining on the reports, but also that, you know, also the custom fields. So for example, in a customer, the custom fields copy over By the way, the addresses and the contacts also copy over. The sales order, will copy to the ship doc, the purchase order to the receiver. The sales order line item will copy over to the ship doc, and let's say you have a linked PO, like specific information, it will also, from the sales order line item, copy over to the linked POs, all right? The linked POs. That's a pretty nice feature, because if I had on the sales order, at times, you're creating a sales order and maybe you want the customer sequence to go over, whatever that might be, to the purchase order line item, so it can be visible. Okay. And
Yeah, Allison, if it's added on the item table, it'll copy over to a work order and a work order component. Not sure about a linked work order, Ian. If a work order is linked to it, that'll also follow over.
yeah, from the item, I believe it would follow over. I would have to check that, but I believe it does follow over to that, to the linked POs. Yeah. And we kind of go through a lot of information over here about the calculations and about how they work. Each type of calculation is documented. The thing to remember is the type is what you want it to result in, not necessarily the if, but the type that you want it to show. So if you want it to show a quantity, type would be quantity. If you want it to show yes, no, it would be yes, no, etc. And of course, all of those, all that information can also be added in terms of your form templates. So on your form templates, for example, if I wanted to add, just remove this here. The pack size, I would just check that, and the pack size would be there.
And that's for any template that you're creating for your sales order when you want to print it out.
Yeah, any template that gets created now has that ability. So there it is.
Yeah. So when they're on their sales order, they just hit create PDF, and then there's the pack size on the far right.
Mm-hmm. You only have to do that once, and you can create multiple different templates to show different information. All right, so a lot of people, really use that feature to create custom fields and the like.
Is there any specific use cases or any other questions for the chat? You guys can click on the chat on the top right and ask your question.
All right, this one was pretty straightforward. I apologize for that error. It's probably I play a lot with this database, so it's probably some data that I was playing with, but that division works, and we've seen it work on many files. So very complex calculations can be done with the calculated fields. And have the information available to you. So people use it for all sorts of estimating and printing and adding contextual information about their items. So really kind of review what that's available for you for the custom fields. It's also something pretty easy, something for us to add custom fields. So, we can add a table and custom fields if we need to do that. What's coming is, in terms of custom fields, is that for certain industries we wanted to drive other characters, like for example, drive the calculation can drive the quantity field on a sales order, for example. So that's kind of next for us on the calculated fields and custom fields. If you have any feedback, any requests or any suggestions, we'd be happy to hear that. So like I said, thank you for attending this this demo, and we'll be posting the video very shortly. Any final words, Michael?
Yeah, if anyone missed the beginning of the presentation, it's all going to be recorded. I'll send out the link for the video. I'll also send out all the relevant links in the knowledge base that can lead you back to what was spoken about today. So have a great day, everybody.